Morning, Joe and the Pro for Wednesday. Having a little bit of video issues, but all good. Really exciting day today. We've got the great Ralph Michaels with us. And let me tell you, folks, there is no more knowledgeable handicapper on the planet than this man. If you're listening to VSiN, they're quoting Ralph. If you're listening to ESPN, they're quoting Ralph. CNN, Ralph. Fox Sports, Ralph. Donald Trump, Ralph. Beyonce, Ralph. Kanye West sings about the damn guy. Ralph Michaels joining us. I'm the Prez. You can find us every single day, Monday to Friday, at WagerTalk.com. And obviously on our YouTube channel, the number one watched YouTube channel in the handicapping space. Ralph Michaels, your first show with us, but we're going to make sure you're on once a week because the world needs more Ralph Michaels.
Hey, Prez, certainly an introduction I can't live up to, but always enjoy chatting with you and love to be a regular on each week.
Okay, my friends, so listen, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about... we're going to do a free pick in hoops tonight, both NBA and college basketball if you've got for us. And then we're going to take apart the NFL card. Not the whole card, but we'll talk 3 or 4 games. But before we get into that, Ralph, I want to throw a question out at you. I highly doubt you have the answer off the top of your head, but it would be killer if there is an answer. So yesterday, one of the posters on Kelly and my NFL presidential address posted that over the years, teams that beat New England in their next game get blown out. I asked him for stats, odds, some data to back that up. He didn't have any. Another user then said they think the same thing. If anybody has anything on that, it's you. I actually recall Pearl Jam singing a song about you with that exact statistic.
You know, I will look that up. It may not be as quick as you think. I could certainly add it to the post if I don't find it after. But since we're talking about New England, I will share one angle with you. I know you're not a big stats and angles guy, but the New England Patriots are 20-0 against the spread off a loss if the next week they're a dog or a favorite up to 3 like they are this week.
Well, there you go. That's actually a pretty impressive record, 20-0. And I think that there is logic to that trend. So I do accept it. What I don't accept is, on a Monday night, if Tony Romo's doing the play-by-play.
And he's eating a pizza at halftime?
Out of curiosity, did Tony Romo get, demoted or promoted? Because he's not doing Monday night anymore. It's now Jason Witten.
Oh, and it is brutal. Between Booger McFarland and Jason Witten, I would rather watch the Spanish feed, and I don't understand a word of Spanish.
Well, I rarely watch Monday Night Football with the volume on. I have 2 TVs in my house. So usually I'm watching some kind of show, Netflix, Narcos, Mexico, as I'm watching now. And then I have the game on the other TV. Listeners, sorry about my camera. I don't understand why I'm using the camera off of my Mac instead of my regular camera because it's just not connecting. And there is a bit of a blur. My apologies. But what can you do? Ralph, check into that New England statistic and maybe tweet it out and tag me in it. Give us a free pick give us a couple of free picks in hoops tonight.
First off, in the NBA, I'm going to go and play against your Toronto Raptors. Golden State playing at a different level now with Curry back. Also got Draymond Green back a few games ago. They're averaging 120 points in that span. They've talked about how Draymond Green is the difference maker changing this pace. The Raptors 1-8 as an away dog, playing back-to-back nights. And teams that are playing back-to-back nights having to face Golden State the second night, only 5-13 against the spread.
Yeah, and look, I took the Raptors as a free play yesterday, and I was wrong. And, they had no Cowie. They were a road favorite. They looked really good last night, but I agree with you. They don't play that great on the West Coast. And even though it's a bit of a statement game for the Raptors because they're playing Golden State and they're hoping to be playing them in the finals this year, these back-to-back games are very tough. Their legs are tired, the shooting is off, and it's hard to defend late in the fourth quarter when you're exhausted.
And, Golden State also only has a few losses on the year. They, of course, remember losing to Toronto without Steph Curry or Green in that game. A couple weeks ago, they lost 131-128.
I think that game went to overtime, if I recall.
Yeah, Golden State was a 9.5-point dog. The world was fading them that day. That line climbed throughout the day. And you know what, Prez? The wait is over. I have your answer on the Patriots.
Oh!
Not what you would expect, I will tell you that. Going back since 2012, teams that beat the Patriots are 13-12 straight up, 12-12-1 ATS.
Can you email that to me?
I will. And when I look at the subset here, and I go since 2015, so in the last 4 seasons, teams are actually 7-5 straight up, 8-4 ATS, the game after upsetting or beating the Patriots.
So, go figure. One of our our listeners were wrong and just making up stuff.
Yeah, well, hearsay is wonderful, isn't it, in the betting industry? Marco and I and Dave talk about it on the WagerTalk podcast all the week. Unless you have those hard facts, and you know what? Just like you did, hey, reach out to me at Twitter, and if I can answer your question, I am more than happy to do so at Cal Sports LV.
You got it, my friend. I want you on these shows once a week, though, Ralph. So let's make it happen. You are a college basketball machine, probably the best college basketball bettor in the world. I recall Bill Clinton talking about that once with Obama. I overheard it at a dinner. What do you got for us tonight?
It's a light card. This week is an entirely light card with a lot of kids having the week off with finals. But there is a totals play I like. 10-2 in college basketball totals this year. And it's game number 715, 716. BYU and Portland State over 164. So often in college basketball, with 353 teams, there's such a variance from top to bottom, and especially with pace of play. BYU's played a few slow teams. Portland State, number 12 out of 353 teams in pace of play. BYU, number 25. BYU, Yoli Childs, 3 straight games with 31 points. The game flies over a total of 164 tonight.
He's Ralph Michaels, an absolute freaking legend. You can get him at WagerTalk.com, and we are so lucky to have you. I'm the Prez, not even close to a legend. Nobody's ever sung a song about me, but you can get me at WagerTalk.com as well. Ralph, let's go through a few NFL games. And you know what? I'm going to pick some of the sexier ones to talk to you about. We got to start on Thursday night. The Chargers against Kansas City. We're still waiting on confirmation on Melvin Gordon, and it's so important to the Chargers, with Kansas City being the 32nd ranked run D in the league. I think this Melvin Gordon in or out is a giant factor in this game. But from a trends perspective, what do you have for us?
It's a game where, I agree with you that he is the most important thing. But you look at the Chargers. I mean, Austin Eckler is averaging 5.1 yards per carry when in fact Gordon's averaging 5.2 carries on the year. So again, it's not the drop off that you would think. I don't think they have to have Gordon to win this game. I like the Chargers anyway. The Chiefs have been poor at home. Their 0-8 ATS is a favorite off a win when they pass for more than 300 yards, and that's most of the games this year. You see that ATS trend that they rely on Mahomes so much. Yes, they come from behind, but the games are always close because their defense is on the field so much when Mahomes is passing so often.
That's actually a really good point. Similar to the greatest show on turf, when you go back to Kurt Warner days, they might score 100 points, but they're only on the field for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's the difference with the Saints this year with the run attack.
Yes.
Drew Brees has always had that pass attack, and the defense was laminated the past few years because they gave up so many points. Well, with the rush attack this year, the Saints have a much better defense, not really because they're that much better. They're just on the field for so many fewer plays.
Yeah, and they're not as tired. Let's talk about the Chicago-Green Bay game because, it's really interesting here. Minnesota's got a tough road. Carolina has 2 games against New Orleans. Philly's got a tough go, especially this week going into L.A. Green Bay sweeps, and they might be in the playoffs. They're +6 now. They were 5.5 yesterday, so there's clearly money coming in on Chicago. I'm taking Rodgers plus the 6, and I make no bones about it. What do you got for us on this game?
It's a game where I think the line is where it should. The Packers have lost, 8 or 9 straight road games now, and for them to win. But you do have Rodgers in this new situation. He talked the talk, got the coach fired, said they could win out. Well, they lost against Arizona, but they did win against Atlanta, although he only had 300 yards at home against a very weak Falcons defense. That was sort of surprising. The Bears defense is legit, obviously. They haven't given up over 339 yards their last 6 games. And the 339 yards they gave up, that was at the Giants with a backup quarterback. Again, same situation. Your defense is on the field. But I don't know if you have a bigger letdown situation than the Bears off that win against the Rams, even though this is your main division rival. Again, no bigger letdown in the NFL perhaps this year than that performance.
I said the exact same thing on the presidential NFL address with Kelly yesterday, that it is a letdown spot even though they're playing a division rival. And the other thing is there's almost no room for Chicago to move. They're not going to move down. They're not going to move up. I think they now have to really focus on finding an offense. And, when Green Bay lost to Arizona, they still had Mike, worst coach ever, McCarthy. So I'm not counting that loss. I like Green Bay here, and I actually like them on the money line as well. Speaking of a money line bet, Ralph, Philly is +9.5 on the road, facing the Rams. If you take a look at Jared Goff's numbers from week 4 on, they're worse than Nick Mullins' numbers in a QPR perspective. This Rams team is barely winning. They're not exactly lighting the world on fire. ATS 2-7-1 in their last 10. There's a lot of points for a team that's keeping every single game close. And Philly again runs the table, and they're going to the playoffs.
I completely agree with you, Prez. I posted something at WagerTalk yesterday, and it was a look at the NFL the last 5 weeks. So all the stats and the records are only from that period.
What a great piece.
You look at the Rams over the last 5 weeks, they're number 16 in offense, they're number 26 in defense, and they're number 19 overall, minus 24 yards per game. That is not an elite team that over a 4-game period is getting outgained by 24 yards per game. You now have a little bit of rumblings after that loss last week. You have the offense questioning themselves a little bit. And, I agree. Carson Wentz, a 19-6 ratio. And yes, they got blown out against Dallas, but hey, a bad loss sometimes just wakes a team like that up.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I'm also, I told everybody in my presidential address yesterday, I'm taking Philly. And let's talk about another dog here. And I know it's the Monday night game, but I don't think I'm going to speak to you before Monday. Yesterday, Carolina was plus 6.5. They've now dropped to 6. One of our listeners commented on Kelly and my presidential NFL address. Bet New Orleans it's a lock. I asked him if it's a lock, are you putting your house and your children's house on it? Haven't gotten a response. But Ralph, New Orleans, similarly, they're not putting complete games together right now. And, I said this yesterday, when you look at a good team, and I think Carolina is a good team. Cam has just been off for the last few weeks. They had the game won in Cleveland. Bad coaching by Ron Rivera. But when you look at a good team and they're in their worst spot, I feel that's the time to take them. I'm betting Carolina in this game. What do you think?
Well, again, we talk about value all the time. And if you look at this line at the opening summer numbers, Carolina was a favorite. Now you're getting over a touchdown difference with the same team. Why has Carolina lost 5 straight games? -2 turnovers to Pittsburgh, -1 to Detroit, -1 to Seattle, and -3 to Tampa Bay. And you look at New Orleans. Yes, they were the cat's meow, winning and covering those 9 straight games. They trailed at Dallas 13-0 at halftime. They trailed last week at Tampa Bay 14-3. When you're having to come from behind, you're not going to cover almost a touchdown spread on the road.
So you're with me on Carolina. Let's talk about one more game. And that game, my friend, is the Tennessee game, plus 2.5, going into New York. Tennessee's in absolute must-win mode. What is interesting to me about this game is Tennessee's a hard team to run against, and that's what the Giants are going to have to do. But the Giants are playing good football right now, and Tennessee is so inconsistent. Giants are -2.5. This game is a pass for me, but what do you think?
I agree with you. I think the line is where it is, and another fallacy in the NFL. People think must win equates to being a better team. Normally, that means you have pressure on you. You start questioning mistakes that you make during a game. Mistakes start compounding. And those teams that have to win, I usually like to fade where the line usually climbs. So if you want to play those have to win teams, wait until later in the week because you're normally going to get money on them to play against. The Giants, you know what? It's Shaquan Barkley or nothing. And I think that's where you're going to have a lower scoring game because Tennessee can slow Barkley. 1,124 yards, 5.4 yards per carry. And you look at the past 4 weeks, they're averaging almost 370 yards with 2 of those games on the road. I look for a lower scoring game, pass on the side.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I said to take the under yesterday. And, in regards to must-win games, if you will, we're entering the time of year where every week there's going to be 4 or 5 teams in a must-win spot. And one of the things Teddy Covers and I always used to talk about is if a team is so good, they wouldn't be in must-win mode. And especially with 3 weeks to go. So I agree 100% with you. Ralph, thanks so much for joining us, my friend. We'll reach out next week. I want you on the show once a week. There's simply nobody with better information in all of sports than you. If Johnny Cash was still alive, I think he'd write a ballad. The Ballad of Ralph Michaels.
Prez, I'm going to jump back and throw in one more angle. We'll see if you like this one. This is for that Panthers game on Monday night. Since Ron Rivera has taken over as the Panthers head coach, they are 16-0 to the over when they're an underdog of 6 points or more. Hence, Riverboat Ron, always gambling as an underdog, 16-0 to the over as a dog of 6 or more.
And I love the over in that game because New Orleans is also weak on the long pass. That's probably their biggest weakness as a team is those passes over 16 yards. And Cam's been doing that. But I'll tell you, against New Orleans, they can't be as one-sided as give McCaffrey the ball on every play. But Greg Olsen is a big loss for Carolina because he opens up the sides with him running down the middle and catching those 15-yard passes all the time. Anyway, Ralph, get the hell out of here. We're going to see you on a whole bunch of shows today out of studio with Kelly and the boys. You're the best, and we'll speak to you next week. Everyone, thanks for listening. Make sure to comment, and I will comment back. Be well, buddy.
Thanks, Prez.